Welcome to episode number 34 of the Canadian Prepper Podcast, recorded August 21st, 2019. My name is Eric. I'm the host of the show. I'm based in Southern Ontario. I'm a hunter, target shooter, ham radio operator, VE3 EPN, and computer geek. I got into preparedness when I was working frontline emergency services and witnessed an over-reliance on emergency services during major events such as ice storms, power outages, etc. I started a small preparedness company to help people get prepared and to be able to better look after themselves for at least 72 hours, if not longer.
My name is Ian, and I live on a small hobby farm in BC. I'm an outdoor enthusiast, sport shooter, reloader, field officer for the CCFR, and my farm's designated handyman.
And hello from the East Coast. My name is Hugues, and I am from Nova Scotia. I'm a Canadian Armed Forces veteran, current volunteer firefighter and station chief, and also a volunteer search and rescue technician and a prepper at heart. I've been preaching and living the prepper lifestyle to varying degrees for the last 6 years or so, and this was born out of necessity to ensure the short-term survival of my family, which includes 3 young children.
If you want to help support the show and keep the Canadian Prepper Podcast on the air, you can buy a Canadian Prepper Podcast t-shirt at rapidsurvival.com. All the proceeds help keep the lights on and the backup generator fueled.
If you're enjoying the show, please take a few minutes and like us on Facebook at facebook.com/Canadian Prepper Podcast and submit a review on iTunes. Also, we want your feedback, good or bad. I'll take the 1 star if need be. Let us know if there's a topic you want us to cover, or if you like or dislike something we're doing. You can email us at feedback@prepperpodcast.ca.
All right, so we've got some cryptic content for you in this episode. We're going to start off with some news articles related to preparedness in the outdoors. Next, we'll be letting you know about how we've improved our preparedness since our last episode. Then we're going to get into the main topic for this episode, keeping your internet and communications secure. So move into some news.
All right, I got a couple of exciting stories for you. The first one was on the west coast here. Grizzly stalks a hiker, then the conservation officers. So I put the link in the show notes. But a small Grizz at 350 pounds basically wasn't taking no for an answer from a hiker. So he took a chunk out of the hiker's leg, then the back of his back, including one of his kidneys. The guy fought off the bear with eye gouges, used a small pocket knife finally to stab it a few times, ended up having to give himself a makeshift tourniquet. Rode his bike down to the camp, and the guys that he ran to did well with basic first aid just to get him to the local medical aid station. The funny part is the second part of this story is the links in the show notes as well, as they sent the conservation officers out to go take care of the wounded bear, and the bear ended up obviously had a taste for human flesh, was stalking them, and the one conservation officer had to turn around and shoot the bear at 4 yards distance because it was making a charge for him too from behind.
Wow.
So it's almost like the grizzly bear hunt that was stopped here a few years ago has now led to an overpopulation of bears and a lack of food for them. Almost like that.
Almost.
Yeah. Anyway, but some good articles, really good reading. Especially the I guess the lack of I guess the guy just didn't give up, right? He just he went through this bear attack and patched himself together, and no matter what, made his way downhill and saved himself. Basically, it was really good. Second article I had for you guys was more of a funny one. I couldn't resist when I saw the word zombie deer apocalypse in the headlines. How can you not read that article, right?
Especially in this podcast, you have to.
Exactly. So it's about chronic wasting disease, and it's just a fact that chronic wasting disease is kind of like Jakob-Creutzfeldt disease for deer, but there's concerns that it may have already spread from animal to human transmission. So they're concerned that because the gestation period is so long, that they might still see some transmission coming down the road. They just haven't been able to prove it yet. So it was very interesting. Anyway, so just don't eat deer brains and deer spines right now.
Or if you're a zombie, you can go ahead and eat the deer brains.
Yeah, it might be too late for you already.
Wasn't on the menu, but I'll make note of it.
All right, so I've got a couple of news articles here. One in regards to how Canadian municipalities have lost money to fraudsters and hackers. So if you've been paying attention to any kind of techie news the last little while, that's a big thing right now. The crypto malware that's going around encrypting all of the computer systems and such. Hackers are purposely targeting municipalities. A few in and around my area have been targeted as well, and locking down their files and then causing them to either seek out a way to decrypt things, or they're saying, hey, pay us a ransom of X amount of Bitcoin, and it's in the hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars, and we'll give you the code to decrypt it. The funny thing is that municipalities are actually paying their ransom. They're realizing that it's cheaper for them to pay the ransom to get the data back than it is for them to employ technicians or other specialists to attempt to decrypt the files to get it back. And a lot of them seem to either be encrypting their backups as well, or they don't have adequate backups to begin with. So interesting news article there. And I guess from the hacker side of things, it makes sense to target the municipalities because they're paying up.
I guess crime does pay, right?
Apparently, if you want to encrypt data, it pays. Yeah, not that I would suggest doing it.
I would say this is just like the Cold War escalation, right? I mean, sooner or later, there's going to be like some guy that's actually going to be able to track down the hackers, and for a fee, he'll tell you where the hackers are. And
I'm sure.
And then it's just like getting the bigger and better weapon neck.
I'm sure it's coming. Yeah, but that was an interesting one, and I figured I'd keep it kind of techie for this episode. So I have another news article here in regards to millions of Canadians' data exposed after hacker targets Capital One. So that was a breach that saw 100 million in the United States, and 6 million individuals in Canada had their data exposed in a hack from Capital One. It seems more often than not we're hearing that now in the news in regards to different various locations and companies having their information or their systems breached, and then people's personal data is getting out there and being sold on the internet. So just something to be aware of if you want to read over the article and just see things such as social insurance numbers were included. So that's obviously not something you want out there, and home addresses and zip codes and postal codes, phone numbers, email addresses, dates of birth, anything anybody would need to assume your identity was exposed in this breach. So obviously not something you want to have happen, and something that is somewhat out of your control if you're a customer. But
yeah, actually had that happen to me a couple of years ago, where the bank phoned me up and said, "You didn't just try and buy a $30,000 boat, did you?" I was like, "No,
if I say no, can I keep the boat?"
Exactly. And I was like, "Well, it depends." I looked at my wife and was like, "Would you be mad if I did, honey?" She's like, "Yeah, I know you're not getting a boat." So anyway, yeah. So sure enough, somebody had figured out my identity and went through a little minor identity theft episode. But the banks are really good about it. They nothing ended up coming my way for charges. So.
Yeah, I had one of my debit cards skimmed years ago now, but it was skimmed at a local business. I could figure out which one it was because my father had been to the same one, and we both got breached in the same week, and it was the only common place we both gone to. But same thing, they took about $800 or so out of my bank account, but the bank was awesome about it. Signed a quick affidavit saying it wasn't me, and the money was back in the account quick. But still, it's not something you want to have happen if you can avoid it.
No.
Oh, that's awesome. It's good.
Yeah.
And for me, I guess the one article I have is just about the current hurricane season. So for a lot of us on the East Coast, both of Canada and the United States, hurricanes are a big threat. And for me, it's one of the reasons why I got into prepping, because back in the early 2000s, Hurricane Juan hit Halifax, the Halifax area, as a low category 2, and we were out of power for 18 days. So that's really what got my mindset into prepping and being ready for more than 72 hours, because of the fact that we were out of power for so long. So currently they're predicting a normal hurricane season. The peak of it is usually between August 20th to September 11th. And so far we've only had 3 named storms come up through the Atlantic, which have really amounted to nothing. So people are wondering, is this the calm before the storm, or are we in for a really quiet hurricane season? I would like a quiet hurricane season because I hate watching storms brewing and working their way up towards the East Coast. But so that's the one article, because that's the one thing that I follow very closely towards the end of August and into September and early October for hurricane season here. And I'm sure millions and millions of other people along the East Coast and the Eastern Seaboard follow that as well.
Yeah, I guess it's an averages thing, so might as well enjoy it while it's quiet, right?
Right. And the thing is on the East Coast, I mean, we are not plagued with things like tornadoes or earthquakes. I mean, we're built on granite slate rock, so we don't have earthquakes, and we don't have the right temperatures for tornadoes. So, hurricane is really the one thing that can come up and devastate us. So that's what we keep a really close eye out on here.
Always good to keep an eye open. So let's move into what we've done lately for our preps.
Alrighty, so what we've done lately for preps is brought to you by Get Out, Stay Out Canada. They are the creators of the Get Out, Stay Out Campfire Grill. They can be found at getoutstayout.ca.
Hugues.
Yeah, so I actually managed to acquire through a friend 6 of these twist lock 5-gallon food grade containers, and I got those for free. So what I've done is I've gone through my my prepper fund. It's just a set amount of money I put aside every paycheck to fund prep, so I don't have to go into debt to fund any of this. And looking to equip all of these buckets with survival supplies, be it food preparation, medical supplies, food preparation, sanitation, all that kind of stuff. And over the course of the coming weeks, especially during hunting season, I'll be kind of making little caches around my 3 main escape routes: the one that leads out of the province, one that leads to our cottage, and one that leads to my remote hunting camp, so that I have 2 caches along each route with a 5-gallon bucket worth of survival supplies. It's not going to be top of the line gear. I mean, I'm not going to invest $1,000 a bucket, but we all know that $100 can get you a long way when it comes to that type of survival stuff. So that's the big thing I'll be doing. And the other thing I did is I've been spending a couple hours every night going through all of my preps, meaning that I go through each one of my individual bins that has the different types of preps in it, make sure that anything that's expired gets refreshed, and make sure that anything like electronics, make sure that those all work, fire them up, update them, make sure that the radios are working, just all that kind of stuff. So I try to do that twice a year. I've been a little bit behind now, so I'm catching up, and hopefully we'll be able to do it in the spring again. But that's what I've done, at least in the last 2 weeks or so.
Oh, awesome. You've been busy. For myself, got the baby's room all set up. New light in the ceiling, new coat of paint on the wall, getting ready for that future little prepper. So it's coming up quick. And then in the spirit of today's episode, I also hardwired the office, aka the recording studio, with Cat 6 Ethernet cable from the network rack in the basement up to the second floor here. Also deployed a new Ubiquiti access point for all the wireless toys and devices. Went over all the firewall settings, ensured everything's locked down, configured the Ubiquiti access point, and locked it down as well, so I don't have any unwanted users or the nosy neighbor down the road stealing internet from me. So.
Okay, first of all, just so you know, full disclosure, there's no way you're going to be able to be prepared for a baby. That's all I'm going to say.
Good luck.
I'm realizing this very quickly, yes. But
yeah, I remember everyone told me when I first, they're like, oh, this is going to totally change your life. I'm like, yeah, as long as it comes with me on the golf game, it'll be great, and I'll just bring it along to all my stuff. And I was like, oh, yeah, no, that's not happening. Yeah, big change.
Oh, yeah.
Might as well start our learning process before I get into what I did. What's the difference between Cat 5 and Cat 6, and what's the Ubiquiti AC?
So Cat 5, Cat 6 is just a type of cabling, and it just Cat 6 runs a little bit faster than Cat 5 or Cat 5e. Ubiquiti is just a brand name for an access point. So it's, I guess most people would know it as like a wireless router or a Wi-Fi router. It's not a router, though. It's only an access point.
Oh, okay, yeah, because I used to wire my house with Cat 5. I was just wondering, I'd never heard of Cat 6 before. So.
Yeah, probably Cat 5e versus Cat 6. But
oh, so you've already gotten full nerd already.
I brought my pocket protector, yeah.
That's right. All right, so
I think it all comes down to the sustained transfer speeds. So if you're moving small files, you won't see a difference. But if you're moving 10 gigs at a time, you're going to see a difference in the sustained speed.
Or if you're just a giant geek like me, you'll notice just because you notice.
You'll just geek out on it, yeah. And you'll run speed tests all day, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. A self ping type of thing, yeah.
Right.
All right. So for myself, berry harvest continues. The wife and I actually had run in with our own local bear, and the very next day we ran into mama bear and 2 cubs, and the dogs once again saved the day both days. So that was good. Had a 300-pound male the one day, which is large for an island bear. And then I had a meet up with a local like-minded guy. That was pretty good. So hopefully he's listening tonight. Stocked up the woodshed, which is something I've been putting off a little too much. I got to get that done within the next month before the rain season starts. Had to do a little bit of farm maintenance. That takes away time from prepping, and then of course back to the night shift tonight. So that's pretty much it for me.
Awesome. Well, maybe we'll move into the main topic of the show then. People will notice that Alan is not here this evening. He sent a message quickly before the show started. His power's out. So as you said, the most secure computer out there is the one that's not connected to anything, and that is him currently. No power,
Nice.
no computer,
Right.
no internet.
Well,
He's not wrong.
demonstrating perfect internet security right now.
Yeah, it's good, but unfortunately, you can't join us. Internet communication security, they're both one and the same and separate, right? We use the internet to communicate globally. We can use it for other means of communication, or we can use other means of communication to communicate locally as well. And you can use, obviously, the internet to communicate locally, but it's more on a global scale. Local communication, you could be talking about family band radio, which I'm sure everybody's familiar with by now. Keeping in mind with family band, privacy channels doesn't always make it private. It says privacy channel, but you're always transmitting in the clear, right? So you can go on channel 4, privacy, whatever, 12. All it takes is somebody else to scan around in the privacy channels and pick you up, or have a scanner and know how to do it. They can still hear you.
And that's the family band, the same as FRS, right?
Yes, yeah, FRS, family radio system, family band, same thing. One and the same, just different ways of saying it. Landline telephones, people still have those. Keep in mind, your cordless phone can still be intercepted, right? So,
actually, and that on that note, since I'm studying for a ham exam still, believe it or not, so cordless phones operate the same frequencies as some ham frequencies, correct?
I'm not. You know what? I haven't looked up the frequencies that cell phones, or not cell phones, sorry, on the cordless phones transmit on. I don't think they're far off a ham frequency.
Yeah, it seems like there's some shared frequencies, and some of them may be cordless phones.
Could be.
Yeah, interesting.
Remember the day you used to pick up your phone, your cordless phone, you'd hear like the neighbor's conversation going on.
Right.
Still possible, right? So
and those cordless phones, they don't encrypt conversations or anything, right? So
no, not at all. It's all in the clear. So something to keep in mind. Ham radio on that topic, completely in the clear. It's against the rules to use any form of unpublished encryption. So if you're on the other end, even if my message isn't destined for you, you're still going to be able to decipher it, or you have to be able to. The type of encryption or the type of system you're using has to be publicly available. A great example of that is Morse code. You can use that on ham radio all you want. It's publicly available. Somebody else can listen to it, and it might take you a bit to figure out how to decipher it all. Some of the guys on Morse code go Mach a million with it, but it is a system, so it needs to be published. You can use CTCSS, or a continuous tone coded squelch system. That's a system that you put in a different tone, and your radio and the radio you're communicating with has to have that same tone in order to hear what's being transmitted. If you don't have that tone, you're not going to hear it. But again, it takes nothing to scan and just pick it up and figure out what tone's being used if you have the knowledge. Same with digital tone squelch, or DCS. It just makes it harder. So you can talk to a friend and say, hey, you know what? Let's use this ham radio frequency, and let's use this CTCSS tone. Chances are nobody's going to be listening to you, but there is a possibility that if somebody wants to be nosy and they know that some chatter is going on the frequency, they can scan, pick up the tone you're using, and then patch in and listen to you. But it is a small way of making things semi-private. But again, just be mindful that somebody can still listen in. So those are a couple of local ways of communication, anyways, and some things to keep in mind as far as privacy goes. But we can move into the digital world of the internet, because I'm sure that's what everybody's here to learn about. So a couple things to keep in mind. Facebook, what you post is there forever. Everybody loves the prepper community out on Facebook. There's lots of forums out there. There's lots of groups and pages out there. Our page is there. If you want to visit it, go ahead. But keep in mind that if you post something on Facebook on a group, it's there forever. You're showing off some gear too, right? You're showing off what you have. So you want to help out the community. You want to show people, hey, here's what I did. Here's how I made things. Here's what I have. But it's publicly available as well. So you got to keep kind of security in mind. What do you want to share versus what do you not necessarily people want to know that you have?
And one thing about that too, I've been hearing a lot of these red flagging rules that are coming up in the U.S. or red flagging laws. I'm sorry, where people, will exercise their free speech right postings on the internet. Next thing you know, what they call the alphabet boys, the ATF, the CIA, FBI, or whatnot, are showing up your door, and you've been red flagged for your comments. And so you just got to be careful with that, right? Even if you're in a private group in Facebook, like you said, it's all public, it's all there, right? Big Brother has access to it, and if anybody thinks that, for a second that, if the alphabet boys show up to Facebook with a court order, that they're not going to turn over the data, like, you're dead wrong, right? So just got to be careful about that stuff.
Yeah, keep in mind,
Well,
like, Facebook keeps logs of everything, right? So just because it's in a private group that you, the end user, can see,
right?
Facebook still has access to all
Yeah.
the data.
Yeah.
See, I was happily off Facebook for like more than a decade, because when I joined the CCFR, one of the caveats was I had to go on Facebook Messenger, so I had to get a profile going again. So this all kind of came back into play about 3 or 4 months ago for me. Your personal profile definitely tells a lot, right? I mean, like you mentioned, the posts are forever, but keep in mind future job considerations. Some people might not agree with your point of view.
Right.
Hey, I'd love to have a stalker. I never had one, but you might get one. Potential burglary. As far as this personal security thing, if you post a picture of the awesome pile of supplies you have there and 30 guns or whatever, you might be inviting somebody to come visit you and take what you have. Normal rule of law, right?
Or even
Right.
if you post that you're away for a significant period of time, or you're gone on vacation,
Yeah.
everybody knows you're
Going
gone.
to
The
Mexico.
house is empty, right?
These are basic social engineering things, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It doesn't take much to figure out what somebody's doing or what they have. And when I was away in the military, the one thing that they said is don't post anything, because the enemy's not stupid. They're going to look and piece together what we're doing based on the little breadcrumbs that we leave, and that could be the telltale things that we're seeing on Facebook, could be the pictures that we're posting. But they can quickly put all that together and determine the size of the force that we have, the equipment that we have, the training we're going through, right? Same thing. Just think about OPSEC, right? So.
Oh, there was that case a little while ago too, where all the military folks were using the Fitbits and running around like private bases that nobody knew about, and they were uploading their runs and their data and stuff to Fitbit, and then there was little heat maps of where everybody's using it, and out in the middle of nowhere there's all these runs and physical activities going on,
like Area 51.
Public, right? Area 51.
Well, yeah. And even it was on the front page of McLean, so we can talk about it. But I mean, Camp Mirage in the UAE. I mean, that was one of the prime examples of the Fitbit thing. Is that the Canadians that supposedly weren't there were showing all their runs in the middle of the Emirati desert, which was kind of funny.
Nice.
Yeah.
But so I mean, certainly not breaking any OPSEC with that, because like I said, front page of a magazine kind of gives it away. The other thing I was going to mention there with the online Facebook stuff is that if the man thinks that you're owning stuff you shouldn't, that's a problem too. There was I put an article further down the show notes where basically one young buck put a couple airsoft pistols on his Facebook page and showing off that he was going to go all gangsta. Turns out they were airsoft pistols, but he didn't have an RPAL. So when the police showed up at his door and wanted to see the pistols he had, and it turned into a bit of a big deal, and because he's trying to show how cool he was. And when you think people aren't watching, they are. So.
Yep.
And then the other prime example was the latest Jessica Yanev, or Jonathan Yanev, whatever you want to call her, him, it. Anyway, she decided to show off the prohibited device, the taser.
Yes,
right. I saw that.
The live stream there with Blair White, and so she's showing how she's going to tase the next person that comes to get her, and it's totally illegal in Canada. And she was surprised when they showed up at her door and arrested her for having a prohibited device, which has a mandatory minimum sentence, which should be interesting to see if they actually pursue that.
Go through with that,
because political correctness and stuff. But the fact is that she basically, or he, whatever, it incriminated itself. So
yep,
yeah, you got to be careful what you say, because like you mentioned earlier on the show, you can't take it back, right? Once it's there, you can delete it. It's if somebody saw it and makes a complaint, they'll go back and grab it, and it's done, right? That's it. So.
Or even the ability to just screenshot something, right? Just because you've deleted it and it's gone doesn't mean somebody else hasn't already made a copy of it.
Yeah, and you can claim it was doctored. They'll go back and look at the logs and they'll just prove it wasn't, right? So yeah.
Another thing, a popular topic, especially in the preparedness community, is what chat app do you use? So a couple of ones. WhatsApp is one very popular app that many people use, not only in the preparedness community, but all around the world. Good things about it: end-to-end encryption. It's looked after by the devices, so not a central server. So it's not like you're sending your information to the server and then it's encrypting things. It's end-to-end. It's looked after by your device. So that means your communication is secure while it's in transit. So from person A to person B, or if you're in a group chat, it's encrypted all the way through. But keep in mind that can be disabled too in WhatsApp. So it is on by default. But if you start clicking around in the settings at one point, you disable it, you're transmitting in the clear again. And the big thing, it's owned by Facebook.
Yeah.
So
if I could mention, I used to, not that long ago, work for a now defunct messaging app. And I can tell you right now that, for me, it comes down to good enough security, right? I don't have anything to hide from Big Brother or the government, anything like that. And I'm more worried about bad actors or the man in the middle or somebody out to scam me or whatnot, right? So to me, it comes with, you have to balance, practicality and security, right? And when it comes to things like WhatsApp, you do have end-to-end encryption. You know that Facebook has the pockets to, build a secure, robust network, which we know that WhatsApp has high reliability, high security, and all that kind of stuff. So to me, that's justification enough to go with a service like that, as opposed to something that's really, really locked down, like some of the other apps out there, like Signal and Whisper and Telegram, which are also run out of Eastern European countries for the most part. So.
Yeah, and the one thing with WhatsApp is they can still extract metadata from your habits. So like who you're talking to, how frequently, how often, so they can still tie connections together. They can still pull a little bit of information to serve you ads and such. So something to keep in mind. But the content of the message is still end-to-end encrypted. But again, if somebody gets a hold of your device, well, they can read all the messages. So
or if they get a hold of the other person's device that you're talking to.
Correct. Yes.
Right.
Yeah. So either device that has the messages, as soon as they get physical access to those devices, well, they've got access to the messages.
That's it. Yeah.
Signal app's another one. The nice thing with Signal is it's open source. So if you're a programmer, you can get the source code, you can look it over, you can see exactly what it's doing. Everything's operated via the Signal protocol. Uses the same end-to-end encryption setup as WhatsApp. So same thing. The devices are what does the encryption. It's not some central server. And like I said, the nice part is it's open source. So anybody can poke at the source code, verify it's doing what you think. It is looked after by a community of security-minded developers. But you do have the opportunity, if you can read the code, to look at it yourself as well, which is kind of nice. Another one is Telegram. If anybody's familiar with Telegram, same kind of idea. I know a lot in the preparedness community have kind of moved to Telegram. Also kind of shied away from WhatsApp just because of the ownership of Facebook, which I get, but you kind of got to balance out for yourself what you're willing to use. So
it's almost like the Zuckerberg has taken away all the trustworthiness from the brand there.
Weird.
Wonder why.
Maybe there's congressional hearings might have done it for him.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for myself, like Signal wins for me as far as the open source portion goes. It's nice to know that you can review the code whenever you want. But I use WhatsApp quite regularly as well because it's the popularity of it. Lots of people that I know use it, and it's like Hughes said, the robustness of the network is great. I have nothing to hide, so
and one thing to say about that, I use Messenger as well, especially to talk to family and friends and all that kind of stuff. And I do so because one, it's practical to use. Two, everybody's on it, right? Literally everybody I know is on Messenger, and trying to convince everybody I know to switch to Signal. Just because it's more secure is not going to happen, right? I mean, most people have maybe one or two, sometimes three chat apps on their phones, but you're going to use what your friends are using, which means if the prepper community is using Telegram, I'll go use it. Yeah. But I'm not going to, start using Signal and try to convince everybody to move over to it just because it's more secure. Because at the end of the day, for most people, something like WhatsApp is going to have enough security to meet their needs, right? So,
absolutely, yeah, and it's WhatsApp just makes it so easy to set up. A couple of buttons, sends a verification to your phone.
That's it.
Boom, you're in and away, and then it grabs all of the contacts that you already know is on it, and away you go. But then that comes up to the data section 2, where they're starting to link everybody that you know, right? But if you're willing to give that little bit of info up, well,
again, it's it's a free product, so therefore you are the product.
Correct.
You as an individual are the product, and the fact that Facebook has not yet monetized WhatsApp is beyond me.
I'm surprised there's no ads or anything yet.
Right?
Yeah.
They could turn ads on and make $1 billion a month off this thing easily, right? So they've already got all the ad IDs there. They've got everything in place, right? So it's just a matter of time, I guess, right?
Oh yeah, for sure. They're going to have to advertise at some point with it.
It's going to be another cash cow soon. So
absolutely. Internet privacy. So Prepper community uses the internet to stay connected, share ideas. This podcast, for example, right? Many use Facebook, like we had mentioned, various groups, private, public type of groups, web forums, like the other areas to connect to discuss commonalities. So whether that be like IRC chat rooms, like the web forums, you name it. But as many are aware, it also leaves a digital trail. Websites want to sell you advertising. So advertisers want to have an ad shown to you at various spots and various sites that you're at, and they want it to transition across your entire internet usage. So no matter what site you're at, they want those ads to come up and constantly be in your face so that they're getting exposure. So that means you're being tracked. So it's, if you ever wondered how, you're on Facebook and you see that advertisement, and then all of a sudden you're over at Google and you see the exact same advertisement, it's because there's a little cookie that's been put on your computer that says, okay, we know this person likes this type of product, so let's show it to them across various websites to keep them exposed to the product and hope that they buy something.
I understand that one, the scary one, and maybe sometimes it's just a coincidence, but like if you're having a conversation with your spouse about something and then you open your phone and there's an ad for it, that freaks me out, right? Sometimes it's a coincidence just based on your habits, and it could be like forecasting, if that's the good word for it, what you're going to be interested in. But sometimes it's happened a few times now where it's just like way too much of a coincidence. Right, it just leaves you. Right, is my phone recording me? It could be. It's an Android phone.
Well, right? If you think Siri's only listening when you say "Hey Siri" or whatever,
you're wrong.
Too,
you're
right?
wrong. Yeah.
How would Siri know you said "Hey Siri" if Siri wasn't already listening?
Or "Okay Google" or Alexa or all the others. They're all listening all the time. I mean, it's common knowledge. It's not a conspiracy theory.
We got a Google Home I got a Google Home for Christmas. I'm like, oh, that's cute. I can turn the lights on and off by talking to it, but it's also listening to everything I say, right? So, There was actually one instance where somebody was having an argument with their spouse or significant other or something, and mentioned the word police. And I don't know how it got triggered, but I think it was either Google Home or Alexa actually called the police department. And the next thing you know, the sheriff's office were at their door because of that. I'll have to find the article. It was really, really interesting. But it's just something to be aware of, right? So.
Yep, they're always listening. So some ways to stay safe. So spam email. Simple if it's too good to be true, right? Don't click the link, even if you're curious, or the freaking attachment.
But the Nigerian prince said I was going to get rich.
Okay, Ian, you click the link then, and when you get all your data back in about a month from now, you can rejoin us on the podcast.
Yeah.
So set up a firewall. You'd be surprised at how many attacks per minute are logged, even on my home internet connection firewall. Mostly it's automated bots just scanning for known vulnerabilities. So it's not even necessarily that they're targeting you specifically. They're just randomly scanning the internet. Like I'll set a server up or something, and within seconds of that coming online, it's getting attacked. And
that's that was going to be one of my biggest thing. And actually, if you look at the list that I put in the show notes, the number one thing that I have is keep your devices up to date, right? Yes. Update your software, update your operating system, update the firmware on your router, right? Because soon, when there's a vulnerability that's found in a device or an appliance, only very few people know about it. When that vulnerability becomes known and becomes public, anybody like script kiddies can take advantage of those vulnerabilities and exploit your computer, your router, your network, or anything, right? So, patching and updating and keeping everything fresh is really one of the best ways to keep yourself secure on the internet. If you're using big devices like, Windows PCs and Linksys routers and all that kind of stuff, there are millions and millions and billions of dollars being poured into security by these companies to keep you safe. And the number one thing you can do is just update your firmware, update your software, and that will keep a lot of these known exploits at bay, really.
Absolutely. And change the default passwords.
Oh God, yeah.
Admin is not your friend.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Come on.
Yeah. No.
Yeah.
No.
And the thing is, it's so easy. I mean, you connect to an open router. You basically what the IP address range is. You know what the gateway is. You go into the gateway. You get the model number. You look up on the internet what the default password is. You're in. You change it. You own that network at that point, right? You can change the SSID. You can disable Wi-Fi. You can enable MAC address filtering, so only your device can connect to that router. Once you restart it, everything. It's unreal. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And just a quick Google search for the make, even just the make of the router. You don't even necessarily need the model, and you'll get a whole list of all the default passwords for that specific device. Even enterprise grade devices, like not just home stuff, even enterprise stuff, you're going to get the default login information. Make sure that you just change it to something else, and that kind of closes one door at least. There's multiple others that can be used as an attack surface, but at least that one's gone.
And then at least when it comes to protecting your home network, I don't think there's a router sold today on the market that doesn't come with encryption enabled. I know like a decade ago or more, a lot of times the encryption was off by default, which was horrible.
Yes.
Now it's on by default. The minimum you'd want is something like WPA2. Don't use WPA,
don't use
or anything like that. Don't use that. And that's going to be probably enough to keep your home network safe, right?
Yeah, as long as it's a strong password.
Right, exactly. Other things that you can do, like things that I do, I hide the SSID. So, unless you're actually searching for that network, you're not going to find it. I enable MAC address filtering, which means only my devices can connect to my network. Even if you know the SSID, know the WPA2 password. If your device isn't on the whitelist of MAC addresses, you're not going to get onto my network. And, just disable the guest login. Disable it.
Terrible idea.
Don't do it. That's a great way for somebody to get into your network, right? So
yeah. If you got a friend over that needs access to the internet or something, it's
give them the password.
Quick to just give them the password.
Yeah.
Whitelist their MAC address. You're good to go.
Right.
Remember the good old days? The guys used to do like war dialing and then war driving. They would go around and get free Wi-Fi from their car, and or they'd phone with the old telephone routers. And they'd phone random numbers, see if they can hook up to a modem.
I have no idea what you're talking about, Ian.
I had some friends that used to war drive, and they used to make waggy antennas out of Pringles cans and all that kind of stuff. So, anyways, it's probably a topic for another show. But
yeah,
don't know what you're talking about. Never done it.
Yeah,
right.
So I had a friend once.
I may have allegedly participated in that war.
Right, allegedly. That's
maybe.
The word.
Yeah.
Right.
I was learning. All right, allegedly. VPNs.
Yeah.
So I know a lot of people have probably heard of the virtual private networks. They're slowly actually noticed. We're getting TV ads for them out here now. They're starting to become very popular. A big popular one, NordVPN. I've noticed that they've actually gone through a certification program and had a third party verify that they don't log anything.
Right.
Again, take that for what it is. They could be completely lying to your face. You don't know. But it is a good way to hide your location. Doesn't work so well anymore for getting US Netflix. That was kind of a big push for a lot of people. Netflix is getting wise to that. Another option is VPN Unlimited by Keep Solid. That's another one that I use. Just try to find one that can keep logs. Again, you're completely relying on them being honest about it. For example, VPN Unlimited, they claim they don't keep logs, but they've actually been flagged for their logging. If you actually go through their terms of service, that's where they say, we do log this, we do log that.
Right.
So it's a good idea just to read over the terms of service for whatever provider you're using, because they will disclose in there what they are logging and what they're not.
I think for me, a big thing when it comes to VPN, and again, you have to balance practicality and security, right? So, I mean, I have a gigabit internet connection here. I want to take full advantage of it. Some free services, some free VPNs will limit me to 5 megabits a second. Why would I use that when I have a gigabit connection, right? So there's that side of it. The other side of it is, to your point, look in the terms of service, look in the terms and conditions of the provider. And to me, it really comes down to where is the company located. If they're U.S. based, I don't trust them inherently, right?
No, part of the
Some of the
Five
ones, right, exactly. So one that I use is based out of the Netherlands, and they basically their operating systems run off a CD-ROM, which means that there's no hard drives in the systems or anything like that. So again, there's no logs, but it comes down to where they're located. Do they have logs? And how many exit nodes that they have, and then of course how much bandwidth that you have available, right? So with a gigabit connection here, some of the services I'm getting upwards of 750 megabits a second, even
That's
on a
impressive.
VPN. So with that, I'm happy with that, right? So
Well, it's funny about the terms of service. I mean, how many people, present company accepted, have just clicked agree to everything every time they get terms of service? Don't go past page one unless they have to manually scroll down, hit the I accept or whatever, right? And you look at that. What was that latest craze there on Facebook? Was the aging app or whatever?
oh right,
And if
right,
you
right, yeah,
yeah, where it shows you what you're gonna look like when you're 90 years old or whatever. And if you actually look at the terms of service, it says that basically they own your image as soon as you
right,
click on that
because it's a
app. So
free service, right? So
because it's a free
again,
service,
you
so
become the
therefore
service.
they can use your image in advertisements or anything else from then on for all of eternity because you just agreed to it.
Yep.
So it's just like, oh man. So yeah, but personally guilty many times of just agreeing to the terms of service without reading them. So probably good to have just actually take a quick peek.
And I just put up on the screen here for anybody that's watching. This is the NordVPN app that allows you to connect to the various servers, and they have all kinds of options. You can find one that goes like double VPN, so it actually hops through 2 VPN servers before it reconnects to the internet and goes. They'll route over Onion, so over Tor,
Right.
which is an interesting one. It slows you down significantly just because of the way Tor works, but there's that option. You can see there's all kinds of servers you can connect to. You can come out in different countries, and you can go through and pick wherever you want to come out of. Fairly similar for
Well, that is, I mean, I
VPN
use
Unlimited.
NordVPN, but the problem with NordVPN is it's really limited to 4 or 6 devices. I can't remember which. So there is a limitation there as well per account, unless you want to start buying multiple accounts.
Yeah,
Right.
Keep Solid VPN Unlimited is the same. Unfortunately, they limit you. You can buy more, but yeah, they limit you to, I believe it's 5. But same idea. This is their thing here, and you get all the different servers here. You can get they have servers that are even set up for torrents if that's your thing, and then ones that they have for streaming your various video feeds such as Netflix.
Right.
So
And it's at first I was always only using the VPN service when connecting to public Wi-Fi, like if you're at Starbucks or McDonald's or something like that. That's when I was really making use of it. But then realizing that my ISP, although they give me a gigabit connection, or sorry, I pay for it, they packet shape. So basically, if I were to use a service like torrents, they'll basically look at the packets that are going through from my network, see that it's torrent data, and they'll basically slow down my connection based on that. Whether they go tell the recording studio that I'm stealing music, I have no idea. But if you're into that type of activity, paying for a VPN is definitely the way to protect yourself, right?
Yeah.
So,
and then, like you said, using it at if you're out and you're on the public Wi-Fi, for sure, this is almost a necessity. Throw the VPN on, it encrypts all your data that's traveling across that network. So the guy sitting 2 or 3 booths away from you isn't actually accessing your computer and stealing all your stuff or eavesdropping on your communications. Same in the hotel. Once you get connected to the hotel Wi-Fi, throw the VPN on. At least then all your communications are secured, and somebody else on that same network, because it's public and by nature anybody can see your communications. Then it secures it all and keeps it encrypted, so they can't eavesdrop on it and listen to it.
And if you don't think it's easy, I mean, I've been in hotels and stuff like that, and you connect to the network, and you get a free app like Wireshark, and you run it.
Yep.
And you can, you can map out the entire network, and you can see everything that is going through plain text. That's how crazy it is. Just get a VPN. Just use the VPN.
Yeah.
That's
It's well worth. I think was it like $2 or $3 a month for NordVPN.
And I sometimes get questions from friends about, what type of what level of encryption should I use with the VPN? Should I use AES 128 or 256? What type of cipher should I encrypt? Just use whatever comes on by default. That's probably going to be your best bet. And really, AES 128 is secure enough that nobody's going to break that anytime soon. So
no. The default is for these purposes, as far as just wanting to make sure your communications are secure from interception. The defaults on these apps will absolutely do what you need.
Yeah, if somebody is just using something like Wireshark and they see encrypted traffic and it's AES 128, they're not going to be decrypting that. No, so I wouldn't worry about that.
They're going to be going for the easier target,
right?
For sure. But absolutely a must for any kind of public Wi-Fi that you're accessing. And these VPN clients work on cell phones as well, so you can get a client for your cell phone as well. If you're connecting Wi-Fi on your phone, absolutely get the client and use it, because if not, you're leaving yourself open to a whole world of interception.
There's another thing coming on about internet security too. I noticed that recently with the most recent update of Chrome, they actually hide the extension. So whether it's HTTP or HTTPS, they're hiding that now. So there is a way to get that back. There's an article online if you search for it to get to know whether you're on HTTP or HTTPS sites. But there's also browser extensions for like Chrome and Firefox that force HTTPS to any site that you go to. So that's another quick win to ensure that you're not transmitting anything in clear text. Those are those little wins that you can get for free that is going to make it that much safer, right? So even if you are running a VPN, it's still good to make sure that you're running that on a secure site, right? So
and HTTPS for any website you're putting any kind of login credentials or personal details into. Absolutely, you don't want to not be. You don't want to not see that little lock up in the icon, the lock icon up in the taskbar.
Right.
Especially if you're putting in some data,
credit cards or passwords or anything, right? So
another one here, antivirus. It's an older technology. If you want to feel warm and fuzzy, go ahead and get it. But the way things are working now, normally antivirus works on identifying certain signatures and patterns in files that have been identified as a virus. Viruses are getting very smart these days and learning how to adapt and overcome that. So if you want to feel warm and fuzzy and feel like you're doing something, install one. I still run Trend Micro personally here, just because I have a subscription, and I may as well use it while the subscription's still good.
All right.
But keep in mind that times are changing, and antivirus isn't maybe as effective as it used to be, but it still has a place in your security setup. So
I
agree. I still use
quite a bit too, right?
It can.
It depends. I mean, like the computer I'm on now is a 16-core processor with 32 gigs of RAM. I mean, an antivirus is not going to slow this. That's it. It's an antivirus is not going to slow this down at all, right? So, and the big thing about me running an antivirus is, my home network. If I get one computer that would be infected, I don't want the rest of the network to be infected. So all the computers have it, so that if there is an infection, it's going to be hopefully limited to one PC and not the rest of the PCs inside the house, right?
The nice thing with some of them now is they're doing some ransomware mitigation, which is kind of nice. So if you do end up with the ransomware, which is the stuff that encrypts all your data and then puts that wonderful screen up that says, hey, you got to pay us a ransom to get your data back, like that news article at the beginning of the episode I was talking about. Some of them are getting wise to the tactics that are being used there, and they'll alert you to it. So it might not be a bad weapon to have. You might not catch everything, but the number one way to steer clear of is Kaspersky. It's been on the radar for the last probably 3 or 4 years of being a little bit not honest with what it's doing, and just recently actually got caught for spying on all the users' internet usage. So it was inserting a little Java snippet on every website that you visited, and put a little globally unique identifier or a GUID within that to identify you, and then it was following you around the internet. So
Are they Russian based?
yeah, they are.
Yeah, so that's another
Yeah, another red flag. Yeah,
another red flag, right?
yeah.
Just like if somebody were to say, "Hey, use this antivirus from China," no, I'm good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just keep an eye out for them. They've actually been pulled off of a lot of the shelves here in Canada from the retail stores. They're not being sold. At least I know Best Buy and a couple of retailers in this area have pulled them from the shelves. So steer clear of them.
Right.
But the other ones, for the most part, yeah, they're, like I said, you can feel warm and fuzzy and feel like you're protected, and at least they'll help mitigate a little bit of the ransomware stuff. But the number one thing, back up your stuff.
Yeah.
That's a huge
so
one.
cheap nowadays. So cheap. I mean, whether you do it on the cloud, and we can talk about that cloud storage solution as well, or just go to Best Buy, buy a 5 terabyte external drive for $150. Do it on Black Friday, and it's going to be even cheaper, right? But that's going to give you enough room to store stuff, right? Seriously, just do it. Losing your wedding pictures is going to be the worst thing. I mean, your wife's going to hate you forever.
Yep,
so
absolutely.
Right. So
yeah, or even do both. Have that external drive and back up to the cloud as well. But make sure if you're backing up to the cloud that you encrypt that backup and don't use their button that says, "Oh yeah, just encrypt my stuff," because guess who has access to the keys? The provider.
All right.
So
if we're on that topic for a second, like I use Google Drive for work because that's what we have at work. I use Dropbox just because I've used it forever for certain stuff, and then I use sync.com, which sync.com actually encrypts at the device level, not on the server. And it's a Canadian-based service, not a US-based service. So that's one that I use a lot for anything like documents, receipts, anything that I want to back up there. The one thing I like about things like Dropbox, it's got the automatic picture upload. So I take a picture on my phone, within 2 or 3 seconds, it's in the cloud, right? So if somebody were to steal the phone, I've got a backup like automatically. But yeah, anything that's of value, I will locally encrypt it with something like AXCrypt. And then I will basically store it on the cloud, which is actually encrypted at the device level before it's put on the cloud. And they use, I think it's like AES 256 encryption, RSA 2048 for protecting keys. So again, it's really, really safe stuff. So.
Yeah, and a couple other options you've got there too. You can do BitLocker on your local machine, or VeraCrypt for local drives as well, or you can make a little VeraCrypt container, put all the stuff that you want to back up to the cloud in there, and then upload it to the cloud, and then you're the only one with the keys.
Right, and just on the topic, as I know you had mentioned about, will this slow down your PC. Encryption will slow down some PCs, but a lot of new PCs are coming out with SSDs that have hardware encryption. So it's not taken away from your CPU power. This is all being done on the hard drive. It's really seamless. It's transparent. You have to do it, especially for like a laptop, because if somebody gets hold of your laptop, your internet security doesn't matter if everything is on your laptop and it's clear as day, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Full disk encryption on a laptop for sure, or any mobile type of device, or even your desktop tower PCs.
Right.
You may as well do it, because if that grows legs and walks away one day,
everything on it.
Everything's there. And don't think that your Windows password is going to stop people.
Not for a second. I've got tools from when I used to work. I put a CD-ROM or like a USB key in, and I'm through in seconds.
You don't even need that. Just plug the drive into another machine.
Right.
Away you go.
Yeah. So full disk encryption is the way to go. And my laptop is a ThinkPad, so there's a boot password on top of a disk encryption password, right? So you'd really have to get through all of that. And somebody who, if I leave my laptop behind at Starbucks and somebody steals it, I'm not worried about the data. That's not going to go anywhere, right? So.
Exactly, and that's the main concern, right? Is if like your computer stores all kinds of personal information, if it walks away, people are going to be able, whoever stole it's going to be able to gain access to your stuff and have it encrypted.
I forget his name, but the guy that used to run a Silk Road website, the only way they caught him was because he was in a library using his laptop, and somebody distracted him and they grabbed the laptop, and that was the only way that they had access to the data, because he had full disk encryption. So they knew that if he managed to power down that laptop before they got him, because of what I forget which right it is they have in the United States, the right not to self-incriminate and give authorities his password, they would have never been able to access that laptop. But the way that they did it is that they distracted him. He was momentarily looking the other way, and an agent walked up and grabbed the laptop, and that's all that they needed. That's it.
Oh, interesting.
So yeah, encryption didn't do much for him at that point, right? So
to demystify the cloud a little bit, because everybody throws that term around and says, "Oh, I'll just put it in the cloud. I'll put it in the cloud." All it is a server sitting somewhere in a data center. Just so people can kind of get their heads wrapped around that. It's just a big, powerful computer sitting in a temperature-controlled data center somewhere where you're throwing your data. So when you think of it that way, it's like your laptop. You can plug it in, set it up as a file server, and say, "Hey, this is my new cloud service. Upload your stuff to my cloud service." And then people start uploading to it.
Right. And if you look at a lot of the better cloud services, they actually replicate your data across multiple data centers.
And across the world.
Across the world. So these are not cheap services, but if one data center, one region, one country were to go down, your data is replicated in several servers, several data centers, right? So
yeah, which is good for redundancy purposes, but just that's why we're kind of pushing the, make sure that your stuff's encrypted or make sure that it's secure somehow, because it's not just some big magical up in the sky, your data just goes and nobody can access it. It's just a server in a data center that really any data center technician can walk up to the server, log into the terminal and look at your stuff if he or she chooses to do so.
And for the most part, you don't know where your data's sitting. Right. So that's a big thing. And a lot of times you'll see the US wanting companies to set up data centers within their borders, because at that point they can see the data, they can control the data at that point, right? So
and they have legal means to access it if they have to.
Exactly. Whereas if it sits outside their borders, then they have to go through political channels and some
countries just don't care.
Some countries just don't care. Right? Like if you were to send a court order to Burundi, or I don't know how
they'll get right on it.
Yeah.
First $20.
Once you're that to check with it, right? So.
Yep. Exactly. I think we touched on it. The Internet of Things, or the IoT devices, like your smart coffee maker that connects to the internet for whatever weird reason.
You've got a smart coffee maker?
Yeah, they exist. I don't have one, but they exist.
Actually, I've got a smart dryer, believe it or not. Yeah. I just found out that there's an app for my dryer that tells me on my phone when the clothes are done.
Does it fold them?
No, not yet. Okay,
but
that might be
not that smart then.
No.
But keep in mind that that people are using these for nefarious things. So if they can gain access to them, they have enough power that they can actually turn them into a botnet and do denial of service attacks with them and all kinds of other distributed types of attacks. And it could be done without your knowledge, right?
And the scary thing is, I saw at Home Depot recently, some of these Samsung fridges that have the IoT have built-in webcams and cameras.
Yeah.
So if somebody is able to exploit that, they have a webcam in your home, right? So,
and then a common place where everybody hangs out, including your kids, right?
Right. Or if you're getting a late night snack at 2:00 in the morning, your unmentionables, right? Yeah. So
you don't want that either. Yeah.
I don't think anybody wants that.
No. So just keep in mind, like we touched on it before, for the routers and kind of the backbone stuff for your home network, to make sure you change the default passwords on those. But make sure that your Internet of Things devices, like that fridge, make sure that they're updated as well. There'll be ways to update them, and make sure you change the default passwords on them as well, because all it takes is one little script kiddie or automated bot or something to gain control of it, and it's attacking who knows what, where, and you don't even know what's happening.
And to me too, I mean, if you've got a device that's connected, that's great, because a lot of things are coming like that now. But if you don't need that feature, just turn it off. Yeah. Like I've got a wireless printer here that, for some reason allowed me to connect to the internet with it. Why, right? I turned that off, right? So it's nice to have it if you need it, but if you don't, just turn it off. It's just one less thing you have to worry about.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, it's getting pretty crazy, because even like headphones for the range, like the electric ones, have Bluetooth connectivity for your smartphone.
Yeah.
So and there's other software updates available for these Peltor headsets and stuff nowadays. So that's getting pretty crazy.
Wow.
Oh, what a world.
Yeah.
One thing I really wanted to touch on was passwords. that's something I preach to people every day. Like, use a password manager. Like I use LastPass. I've used it for
Yep. Same here.
probably 6 or 7 or 8 years now, right? So, and the beauty about that is that you can create one really complex password that becomes your master password. You can set up 2FA or two-factor authentication where I have it with a physical key, so it's a UB key. Actually, don't have it right here. I was going to show you, but it's a physical key that you've got to have. So the whole thing about two-factor authentication is something and something you have. So even if somebody were to get hold of my really complex password, they still can't get access to my password locker because of the fact that they don't have that thing that you need, right? And whether that's a UB key or they send you a text message or you use an application on your phone like Google Authenticator, you really have to do that. And then LastPass allows you to do things as well, like it allows you to limit mobile devices attached to your account. So you can sign in from your phone, but then you have to go into the account on a computer and allow that phone to connect. So it just really locks it down too, right?
Yeah, it's nice. I use it as well, and it's great. You can use it across multiple devices. So there's even like a Google Chrome plugin. So
Right.
you can just click on the website that you want to go to, click on it. It goes to it, autofills the form for you, logs you in, but it doesn't do that until you've authenticated yourself with your master password and your two-factor authentication. Same with your phone. There's an app for it. I've got it on my iPhone. It's great for being out and about if I need a password for something. And they've got a secure location as well for notes. So it's all encrypted.
Right.
You can put some notes and reminders in there if you need them.
That's where I put all my backup codes for two-factor authentication for sites. And that's another thing too. I mean, wherever possible, turn on 2FA for websites,
Yes,
right?
absolutely.
I have it for things like Facebook. I have it for banking. I have it for PayPal. I have it for anything that could potentially, harm my interests in any way, right?
Yep.
And if a service provider doesn't have it, call them, email them, ask them why not. When's it coming, right? So, and a lot of times that is the differentiator as to why I pick a service is whether or not they have that two-factor authentication. It's not foolproof. It's not,
No,
but
definitely not.
Again, it's good enough security, right?
Yeah,
So,
it's an extra layer.
right, exactly. Right? I mean, if they only have SMS, I mean, people could, spoof your SIM card.
Yep.
There's all sorts of ways but somebody would have to be really determined to get after you, and I'm just not that interesting, right? So
well, you're on this podcast, so maybe someone's
right. So I have some fame here, but yeah.
No, it's true. Two-factor authentication for sure, and LastPass just makes life so much easier. And you can also do like family setup with them, so you can share passwords with significant others if you need to. It'll do a random password generation for you as well if you need to generate passwords for your different sites. So it'll generate strong passwords and then save them. So
and that's a good point too, because I was guilty of it at first, that I would have a semi-strong password. I'm talking about like 8 characters with uppercase, lowercase, special characters, and all that kind of stuff. So it was a safe password, but I used it everywhere, which means that if it was compromised on one site, it was compromised on every site. Because if I got compromised on one site, they knew my email address and my password, and they couldn't go on any other site and try it. So now every single site that I use has a separate password, which is generated by LastPass, which is like a 24-character hexadecimal password. You're not going to guess it anytime soon. And even if you hack one site, you're not going to get the rest of my stuff. So that's really important too.
Yeah, and it makes it really easy to do. They even have an automated setup for the more well-known services where you can just say, hey, here's my current credentials. Please go in and change them all. Put new secure passwords in, then log them in the system. And so they make life easy that way. So
yeah, and a lot of services like Google and Facebook you can allow them to send you notifications that there's a login, whether it's known or unknown. So I have that turned on as well. So even if somebody were to get my password, they were to somehow get my 2FA device, if there's a login that happens, I get a notification of it, which is great, because if it wasn't me, I still have the ability to click no, and it automatically locks that person out and locks down the account too, right? So that's a great thing to turn on as well. It's not a nuisance, and really it's a lifesaver, right? So.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. The last thing you want is somebody getting into any of your social media or any other type of accounts and starting to post all kinds of stuff, because it's hard to clean up. That's for sure.
Right.
What else do we have here?
So
Good.
actually, we'll just you guys looking for the other notes. Back to the original landline phone lines. It's kind of funny how full circle we've come in the fact that if Snowden could teach us anything, it's just a few clicks, and back in the day they could get information off anybody anywhere with any app. And now it seems landlines, there has to be a physical access to the lines. They're actually somewhat mildly more secure than digital. Of course, they still can just tap your lines anytime. But remember that used to be the big old thing back in the day was tapping phone lines, and now it's almost landlines are like secure compared to wireless lines.
And I remember the old analog cell phones that weren't, nothing was encrypted, right? So if you had the right scanner, you could pick up on those conversations. But obviously now that everything is digital, you're not going to pick up on that stuff, right? So.
Yeah, well, interesting enough too is that back when Trump first sent out some feelers to Kim Jong Un, he sent letters via mail, via courier and stuff. But he actually used written letters to communicate. Now maybe that's because North Korea has no computers, but I found it was kind of funny the fact that he actually used the written word versus digital communication. So
wow,
that's interesting.
All right. Anybody on the panel have anything extra to add in, or just want to discuss?
You guys are further along than I am, so I got nothing.
I think the last one I had was, I buy a lot of stuff online. Most of everything I buy now is online except for groceries and all kind of stuff. I know that PayPal is probably not the most popular service, but using a service like PayPal protects some of your personal identity, especially things like your address, your credit card information, all kind of stuff, because you're only storing it in one place. PayPal has very, very, very robust security. And when paying online, you don't want a site to store that information. So if you're using a service like PayPal or Google Pay, they safeguard your information, your address, and all that kind of stuff. So that's just another thing to think about, is you're not putting your credit card and your address and everything on every site that you go to, as long as you can use services like Google Pay and PayPal and all that kind of stuff.
And they've got some built-in protections as well. If you do get screwed over on a deal or something, they got some buyer and some seller protectors.
Right, exactly.
Which is nice as well. All right. Well, maybe we'll move into the podcast challenge then.
All right. Well, it's a bit of a hypocritical alert coming from a podcast on YouTube, but lower your internet footprint. So you should try to apply some true gray man theory to your Facebook profile to try to be less predictable and less marketable with the VPN. So don't be the product versus the free stuff. So yeah, just try and lower your internet footprint.
Yeah, and if you find a good VPN or another way of lowering your footprint, let us know at feedback@prepperpodcast.ca. Always interested in picking up a new VPN provider if anybody knows of one or any other ways of lowering your footprint. We can get it out on the next episode as well.
We can come back to the closing there in a second, Eric. But do you want to, Hugues? Do you have to take off?
I do. I've got 3 minutes left. So.
Okay, you just want to tell us where to get a hold of you, and then we can go back to the rest.
Yeah, sure. So you can get a hold of me at hfxprepper@gmail.com. Oh, right there. Look at that. Or on my YouTube channel at hfxprepper if you search for that there.
Right on. Well, that's the case. We'll let you go and have yourself a good day. Thanks for joining us. We'll come back to the rest.
Yeah. Thank you. You guys have a good night.
All right. See ya.
Bye now.
All right. So upcoming events. All right. So I got a couple here. Tactical and Competitive Shooting Sports Show. So TACOM. It's September 6th date in Toronto. It's available with more information at tacomcanada.com. Just think like SHOT Show for Canada. There was a recent CCFR podcast episode which covered it in great detail. It's actually more stuff than I thought even. They do actually have Glock SIG and I think CZ showing up with all sorts of demo guns and everything else there as well. Nice. So it's definitely worth checking out. And it's actually not downtown Toronto either. It's actually at the International Center near the airport.
Ah, so Mississauga.
Yeah, so it's actually easier to get to than I thought. And so if you're anywhere near the GTA, hate to say it, it's worth checking out for sure. Like if I could, I'd love to go, but yeah, it's my daughter's birthday and everything else. I can't.
I can't make it either. I'm gone on our annual fishing trip. So.
Yeah, and then so also the Parksville Qualicum Gun Show. It's not a big show, but I thought I'd mention it because I'm going to be there. And it's September 5th, 2019 at the Coombs Fairground. It's near the town of Parksville, BC, and the infamous goats on the roof. If you ever want to Google that for a little bit of fun, it's kind of funny. I'll be manning the CCFR booth there as well with information packets and membership information. There is a website in the show notes for that. It's just gunshowscanada.ca/Coons Gun Show. So it's also right around the corner from A Company Military Surplus, which has great Gore-Tex boots and jackets on the cheap.
Good to know.
So, yeah. And that's pretty much all I had for upcoming events.
All right. So, just a reminder that if you're hosting an event or you know one of your area that you figure would be useful to the preparedness community, let us know. We'll add it to this section of the show. Just flip an email over to feedback@prepperpodcast.ca, and we'll make sure to read it out and get the word out. And we'll move into some shout outs. So I've got one here, just to StreamYard. They are our new provider for streaming the podcast live on YouTube. So far, so good. Everything's been great with them. The support's been awesome. I've had to send in a couple of questions to them, and I get a reply almost instantly. About 5 or 10 minutes later, support tech has replied to my question and either implemented a change I've asked for or has said that they've added it to the list. So quite impressed with them. They've been really good, and they're helping us keep the podcast going live. So.
And they're actually, you said you're actually able to get a hold of like a live human, not just an automated bot or FAQ, right?
No, yeah, this was via like a live chat, and I just sent a quick question saying, "Hey, I want to know how this works, or are you thinking about doing this?" And the reply back was, "Yep," and it's implemented.
Done.
Cool. So yeah. So they're really good. So they're still a beta product, but for a beta product, they're working quite well. So quick shout out to them.
Yeah, that's awesome. For myself, I've got shout out to new listener Brian. I think he should be listening to this podcast when it comes out here on iTunes. Looking forward to hearing his feedback.
Awesome. And for email and iTunes reviews, we've actually, as the episode is being recorded here, we got an email in, and it is from Podcast Analytics saying, congratulations, Canadian Prepper Podcast is now ranked number 1,136 on the Apple Podcast Society and Culture chart in the United States of America.
Well, okay, that's almost like a participation badge, but I'll take it.
Hey, you know what? That's all right. we're being noticed.
That's true.
Right?
Makes us feel special.
Yeah, hey, that's right. 1,136 is, well, somewhere on the list at least.
Yeah. Well, if you think about it, Germany came in second place in World War II.
There you go. Oh boy. As far as iTunes reviews, we are up to 29 5-stars. We got that one little guy 4-star, and the 1-star that is still showing us that we are doing things right. So that's good. And we've got a new written review. It's from KDog247365, left on August 19th, 2019. It says, what a great show for my commute to work. I enjoy the topics and the pace of the podcast. Good job. So I appreciate the review there. I'm glad we can keep you entertained on your ride to work. And yeah, that's it. The inbox, besides that, has been pretty dry. So with that, I'll bring episode number 34 of the Canadian Prepper Podcast to an end. You can find the podcast on iTunes, Podbean, Spotify, and your favorite podcast app. Please help us out. Take a few minutes and submit a review. It helps other people find us. You can also find us at prepperpodcast.ca and, of course, on Facebook.
All right. We record these shows on StreamYard now. If you want an early peek at the shows, please subscribe to the YouTube channel Canadian Prepper Podcast and click on the notifications tab. That gives you alerts when we're going live. You can each reach Ian directly by emailing me at theironretreat@gmail.com. You can also find me giving my 2 cents worth on Canadian Patriot Podcast, also available on iTunes and YouTube. There you can find us exposing more government waste, squirreling off on the odd firearms-related banter, and generally drowning our sorrows at the diminishing freedoms we face as time goes on.
All right. And please check me out at rapidsurvival.com. You can get me there in the live chat while buying some prepper gear. You can also email me at feedback@prepperpodcast.ca. So thanks for joining us, and you can tune in for the next episode, Keto Diet and Prepping. Until next time, be prepared, stay safe,
and keep learning.